What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move to Six, presented by Castrol Edge. DJ, Bucky, Rhett back with you. And I believe this is the greatest football weekend of the year, guys. I mean, when you look at having 6 games in 2 days, and then we get to come back with the national championship game tonight, it's a little piece of football heaven here.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge slice of football heaven. The playoff games were outstanding. I expect the national championship game to be fabulous as well. And so I don't know if it gets any better than this. Just sign me up for 3 games on Saturday and Sunday of the playoffs every time it starts out.
Yeah, you know, it was fantastic. In fact, like the only game that was really like slime worthy was the Saints and Bears game, but that turned out to be a great thing, right?
Little Nickelodeon. Gosh, me and Bucky were calling it for Amazon, so we didn't get a chance to see the Nickelodeon feed, but it was popping up on the Twitter timeline.
Yeah.
I'm all for slime cannons. I'm all in on that going forward. I love that. All right, let's get our takeaways. We do have 10 takeaways today. We're going to have 6 of them based off the 6 playoff games. We're going to have 4 just kind of big league topics here as we head towards a wild off season. But I'll start us off with the first game takeaway here, and that's the Ravens just flexing on the Titans.
Shotgun snap to Jackson. Jackson deep in the pocket. Now he steps up, tries to run. He's got some space. 45, 40, first down, 30. He's being chased. 20, 15, 10. Will they get him? Jackson dives. And he's in. Touchdown, Lamar Jackson. He had been pinned up all game, but they're a 48-yard run.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable run by Lamar Jackson, who took this game over. Really what he did with his legs, rushing for over 100 yards on, I think, only 16 carries. The way he toted the rock was huge. But I thought it was really a game between 2 organizations that fancy themselves as bullies. And I was a part, when I was with the Ravens, of one of these playoff games where the Titans came into Baltimore and beat the Ravens. We know about the Eddie George game with Ray Lewis on the way to the Ravens Super Bowl where Ray took the ball away from Eddie. Eddie returned the favor coming back in and went in there. We saw the battle last year and then this year. Again, it's just there's so much intensity between these 2 teams, and I thought in this game the Baltimore Ravens were clearly the more physical team along the line of scrimmage, the way they bottled up Derrick Henry and the way they were able to crank up that run game with a guy, you know, Buck, we've been talking about getting featured more in this offense than J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, you know, DJ, I think this was the big game for the Baltimore Ravens because it gave them a chance to get the monkey off their back. And now that they've won it and won a playoff game under Lamar Jackson, I think we could see this team play like many of us thought that they would play at the beginning of the year. They committed to the run. They stayed with the run. They didn't lose their discipline when it came to the game plan. And because of that, they're rewarded. And Lamar Jackson is fantastic. And, you know, he must be a lot faster on field level than we think because the way that he slithered and moved around the Tennessee Titans on that touchdown run, he must be at another gear that we can't even recognize just by watching the TV copy.
You know, we talked about it all week, right? This Ravens team these last 6 weeks just felt different. Felt different than the team we saw go into the postseason as the 1 seed a year ago. And I actually felt like this team was maybe better equipped to come out and beat the Titans than the team we saw lose to them a year ago. I think, you know, the way they limited Derrick Henry in this game like no other team has, including themselves earlier in the year in their Week 11 matchup. You know, I think it speaks a lot to the health of the defensive front. Since Week 13, when they started going on this run, they've had Brandon Williams, they've had Derek Wolfe, they've had Calais Campbell, all healthy for all of those games. And, man, just having that beef and that strength up front to stop those guys, to get the penetration like you're seeing from Matthew Judon, to get after Derrick Henry before he's able to get started was such a key in this game. And then, you know, on the Lamar Jackson side of things, obviously had the bad interception to start things off. They find themselves in a 10-0 hole. And, you know, I think maybe the most important thing that you lead with here, if you're the Ravens, is that you come back from a deficit, from a 10-point deficit. You know, the likes of what you haven't done since Lamar took over as starting quarterback. So now they're proving here at the most critical juncture in their season that they can, if they are backs against the wall down by 2 scores, that they know how to do it. They turn it over to Lamar, let him go, let him run them back into the ball game. And this is a dangerous team moving forward.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at this game and you see Hollywood Brown have the production he had as an undersized receiver. We'll get to the Saints game a little bit later, but Deontay Harris, a little undersized receiver, had some production. Antonio Brown, not the biggest guy in the world. You're seeing the speed and the quickness really play here in the postseason. All right, that's takeaway one. What we got for number two here, Buck?
The Browns are tough.
Second down and 10 from the 40-yard line. Screen pass, Chubb 40. Got a block, 35, broke a tackle 30. Down the far side, 20, 15, foot race to the 10, 5, touchdown! 40-yard catch and run. Nick Chubb, what a play!
You know, DJ, we've talked to a lot of coaches that have come on the podcast, and they've talked about toughness. And a lot of times we think of toughness as the physical component. But really, the Browns, to me, are tough because of their mental capacity to deal with the things that they had to deal with over the last week. Head coach not being available, unable to practice really the last 2 weeks due to COVID issues and protocols and those things. Taking on a team that really had beat them up the last decade and a half whenever they had to face them in division games. And here they go on the road. And they not only beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they physically whipped them on both sides of the ball. And so when I look at this Browns team and how they're built to play, this is a tough out for many teams because of the running game, the complementary play action passing game, and the opportunistic defense that's beginning to come up with turnovers. This is a tough team, a team that many teams don't want to face in the postseason.
Yeah, so, you know, looking at this, the way they jumped out on the Steelers in this game, you know, I'm sure left for some anxious moments for Browns fans, second quarter through midway through the fourth quarter, like, oh my God, is this going to be another one of those, 2002 Steelers come back and win the thing late? But look, they kept their, the pedal down, and the touchdown from Nick Chubb, late was big after the 4th and 1 decision from Mike Tomlin to punt. But I got two things in this game here for the Steelers. What's Ben Roethlisberger going to do now? Clearly as sullen and as sad as we've ever seen him on the bench late game, right? And then the other thing is, on a more lighter note, like when did Juju Smith-Schuster become like this NFL villain? Like, didn't he come into the year, come into the NFL as like this fun-loving, riding my bicycle, no driver's license, oh man, I got my bike stolen kind of guy, and all of a sudden, he's like this taunting, bulletin board material, dancing on your logo kind of thing. I'm like, wait, this is a Juju? Like, I just, that whole thing, but whether the whole Browns is the Browns, whether that really, motivated the Cleveland. It's certainly, by the reaction we've seen from Browns players, did, but, did it play a role in the game? I don't know. I want to go back to the fun Juju.
Yeah, the fun. Look, if they had won, you would have seen the fun Juju. He actually played well.
He did.
In this game. Ben had 500 yards. And Bucky had a great tweet about those being empty calories late in the game. But they did. Moving the football wasn't a problem for the Pittsburgh Steelers the whole game. They couldn't protect the football. Was all the turnovers there by Ben that kind of did them in. And then defensively, they got beat up at the line of scrimmage. And I was trying to think of a takeaway for this game coming off of what you guys were talking about, and I'm actually springing it forward to some of these coaching hires, and you're looking at schemes, not just the leadership aspect of it is obviously important, but when you look at that offense with the Shanahan scheme that Stefanski runs, Stefanski wasn't even there for this game, but this run game is on autopilot when you have okay backs, and now you get a chance to see two legit big-time backs that the Browns have. Buck, it's kind of like what you've talked about. When we saw Dalvin Cook get a chance to go to a team and play in this system, man, now you got a big-time player in a big-time friendly scheme. That type of a marriage can take this thing a long way, and this is a team that can rely on this run game for a long time.
It absolutely can rely on the run game for a long time. And, DJ, at a time where people are saying don't invest in running backs, they actually have invested in two high-quality number one running backs in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt because they signed Kareem Hunt to a 3-year extension, and I'm sure they'll take care of Nick Chubb. But this run game, coupled with the fact of, and I'll say this, Bill Callahan doesn't get enough credit for what he's done with this front line because running this zone system where they're double teaming and climbing and getting to the next level, it is perfection, and we have seen them beat up good defenses with this scheme. And, oh, by the way, the complementary play pass package that goes with it, it is help solidify and stabilize Baker Mayfield as a playmaker. And right now, the Browns have it rolling. It'll be an interesting challenge for them going on the road, taking on Kansas City, but I wouldn't count them out because this scheme is terrific.
We're going to do 1,600 passing yards in this game between Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes. What are we thinking?
Go.
We going back to
Big
Lubbock?
12, Big 12.
Going back to Jones Stadium? Let's do it. All right, let me get us to takeaway number 3, shall I? Here we go. And that takeaway is the Bills partying like it's 1995.
Second and goal at the Colts 3. Allen designed run, looking to his right, tries to cut back left. Now he throws a prayer, near right side, tumbling grab, touchdown! The improvisation of Allen as he connects with Dawson Knox, and the first touchdown of the NFL playoffs belongs to the Bills. It's 6-3, 1:49 to go in the first quarter.
Oh, you know what I need right now? I need some Thurman Thomas in my life. I need a little bit of that middle bar face mask. I need some Jim Kelly, some Cornelius Bennett. Give me some Bryce Paup out there. Let's go. 1995 Bills beating the Colts, or rather beating the Dolphins 37-22 for what was at that time their last playoff victory in more than 2 decades. And now, Bills fans are like, give me the Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs. Give me some Devin Singletary, you know? Give me some Tre'Davious White out here. I mean, these are the new glory days of the Buffalo Bills, watching Josh Allen guide this team to their first playoff win in a quarter century. You know, we're really exercising some of the playoff demons. That's maybe the overall takeaway from this entire week. Bucks, Browns, and Bills all off the schneid. 3 of the longest active playoff victory droughts in the NFL all get the demons exercised this week. And look, this Bills game, man, I just think in the trajectory of this team is all about the improvement of Josh Allen. We've kind of talked about it throughout the year here. I mean, and DJ, I know you've made a ton of points about his improved completion percentage. I mean, it's astronomical, the improvement that he's made, the accuracy that he's shown, the way he leads this team. And I'm just so impressed with that aspect of his game. And then this defense, I think, has played really well at times. Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds are fun to watch on the second level, Tre'Davious White. And then that safety duo with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, I feel like are maybe one of the more underrated duos in the league. And they finally figured out how to defend the Hail Mary. So, look, it's all coming together for Buffalo.
It is coming together for the Buffalo Bills. And I think you have to be excited if you're a Buffalo Bills fan because your quarterback has continued to evolve as a high-end quarterback, potentially a top-5 quarterback. When you look at the way that he played against the Indianapolis Colts, I thought this defense would be his toughest test based on the way that they play that soft zone, the Tampa 2, where they take away the deep shots and they force quarterbacks to dink and dunk. Josh Allen was terrific. He was patient. He was disciplined. He got the ball to his playmakers. He let his playmakers go to work. And when he had a chance to take a shot, he took it and he cashed in his lottery ticket. Josh Allen is trending in the right direction. Buffalo Bills fans have to be excited about the way their franchise quarterback has evolved.
Yeah, Josh Allen, to me, his patience in this game, knowing that he's got such a huge arm and the big playability down the field. I felt like the Colts and their scheme kind of dictated this a little bit. Hey, keep the ball in front of you. They're going to eventually make a mistake and turn the ball over. And Josh Allen was patient. He took what was there, was accurate with the football. When he had opportunities, he took them. He got the tough yards with his legs. I thought it was a very mature performance from Josh Allen in this game. And then we'll get a chance to get to Phillip Rivers when we get to some of these other takeaways later on in the show, so we'll hit that there. But I do want to say, man, I thought the running backs let him down in a big way in the passing game. Jonathan Taylor had a couple big drops. Yeah. Naheem Hines had a big drop in this game. I actually thought Phillip Rivers played pretty well. We'll have a chance to talk about his future a little bit later on in the show. I'll keep it going here. Takeaway number 4. Talking about new beginnings here, it might be time for the Bears to start fresh.
Snap it, they get it back to him. Montgomery had taken the snap. Trubisky launching it right back to Wims, and he drops a touchdown. The pass was perfect. What a play!
Oh my gosh, he's wide open by himself. He just made the hard catch, and now the easy one. It's right there.
And Javon Wims, I mean, that was crucial. They catch that ball, you go into half, it's a tied ball game, I believe, if that ball's caught. and you're kind of right in the game. Unfortunately, he dropped that ball, and now the Bears could not do anything offensively for the rest of the game. I mean, they didn't have a third down conversion, I believe, until the very last drive. It was an anemic performance, and it leads you to what's going forward for them in the offseason. I'll let you guys talk about the Saints and what they did on this, as they're looking at a big game coming up against Tom Brady, the third matchup between those two teams. But when I'm looking at this from the Bears' standpoint, I've kind of made this statement of, wow, you could re-sign Trubisky a little bit below the franchise number on a one-year deal with some incentives to climb above that. That would allow you to franchise Allen Robinson, and you're trying to hold on and piece this thing together. But Buck, the more, we watch that game together, and the more you look at this Bears team, they're kind of stuck in that place you don't want to be, which is that 6, 7, 8 win type team. In order to get out of that land, you've got to either go down to go up, or you've got to be really aggressive. And I just don't think they're good enough to go out and get 1 or 2 more pieces, and that's going to elevate them. To me, it might be time to start over here and just start fresh. You're going to have to take a couple steps back here, because they need to rebuild this football team.
Yeah, when I look at this team, I don't know what you really hang your hat on. The quarterback is okay, if that. The coaching staff doesn't appear to have great imagination, nor the ability to elevate the players on both sides of the ball. And then when I look at the roster is just, I don't know who the star players are outside
Offensive
of Khalil
line
Mack.
is terrible.
Yeah, Khalil Mack, Allen Robinson, who is a free agent because you didn't re-sign him. I don't know why the Bears would want to run this back if I'm a Bears fan. And so I don't know how they can fix it without a complete rebuild, because 1 or 2 players isn't going to change the plight of the Bears, particularly in that division where the Packers look superior to everyone else. I think they have to blow it up. I think they have to move on. And I think this is a complete ushering out of everybody, because I think you just need a different perspective on how to build a team.
Well, I think they certainly start fresh at the quarterback spot. I made that comment before on this podcast. It's just flush them all. It's time to just rebuild that entire room the way that the Vikings did the year after Case Keenum left. They brought in Kirk Cousins. There's a whole new group there. For the Saints, though, this was just the 4th game all season where Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara were all on the field together. And they all got onto the stat sheet in the end zone together here in this game. But I don't think that's the thing. And they're going to continue to get better. I mean, this was, like I said, it's been a while since they were all there. But this team's Super Bowl run is going to come because their defense is ready for a Super Bowl run. I think we saw that in this game. While the Bears didn't provide the stiffest of challenges in that department, they're going to get one this week against the Tampa Bay Bucks. But I think defensively, the Saints are going to be well positioned for a deep postseason run here because of the way they get after the quarterback, the way that they've been able to stop the run, although they were a little bit leaky late in the season. But this is a team that rarely allows a 100-yard rusher. I think they are well positioned on the defensive side of the ball to go deep into the playoffs here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that big matchup here. 3rd time they got after Tom Brady up front the last time that they played him. I thought one thing to keep an eye on with that game going forward, we'll talk about a little bit on the aftermath today, is Rob Gronkowski could be key in that game for the Bucs. Not going out, but actually keeping him in. He functions as kind of a 6th offensive lineman in there to help protect Tom Brady. All right, Buck, that gets us right to Tampa. What you saw there?
The Bucs have too much offensive firepower.
3rd and 3 at the 36. Snap to Brady under center. Fakes the handoff. Left tackle block. Winds up. Long pass near side. Backpedaling. Catch 5. Into the end zone. Down the sideline. Touchdown. Antonio Brown. Oh, he got the ball at coverage on the near sideline. Belt high. Backpedaling. Catch in for 6 for the Bucs.
DJ, when I look at this Bucs team, I don't know where I would start if I'm trying to defend them, because the weapons that they have, they really stretch you and test you at every level. You look at their wide receivers, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, AB showing up, Rob Gronkowski, who didn't have a catch, Cameron Brate. They can get you anywhere. And now the emergence of Leonard Fournette as a bell cow running back. And if they get Rojo back, Ronald Jones back, how do you stop them, particularly when you have a pass-first point guard and Tom Brady, who is willing to get the ball to the open man? This Bucs offense, when they've relinquished control and they've allowed TB12 to run it, man, they may be unstoppable going forward.
Yeah, look, I think there's a few things here, for the Bucs. I think particularly a lot was made of the additions of Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette to, already pretty talented position groups at both of those spots, and wide out and running back. And I think what we're seeing is that depth, that like high end depth, has really paid off for them. Leonard Fournette had a nice game when Ronald Jones couldn't go. It was a late scratch in this game. Dressed out and didn't see a snap. And then Antonio Brown was huge in Week 17, caught a touchdown in this game. And with Mike Evans not 100%, even though he ended up going over 100 yards in this game, especially with his second half performance, I think it's important to have those types of guys that can step into a high level role for your offense and keep up that same level of play. So I'm excited about this game here. I think it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. I think this is by far the best iteration of the Bucs that the Saints will see this season. And I wonder where the Bucs defense as a liability, seeing how Taylor Heineke threw for over 300 yards against them, kind of factors into this matchup going forward.
What was the last game, Rhett? You'll remember this. Was it the Falcons for the Bucs last week?
Week 17.
And Brady threw for like 400 yards.
Yep.
And
Antonio Brown had 11 for over 100. Yep.
That to me was almost like the perfect thing that could have happened for that team, is to just get this huge confidence boost, throw it all over the place. And now when you watch a tape of this, Tom Brady looks as good as I've seen him in the last several years. I mean, he looks fresh. He's crisp in his drops. The ball is jumping out of his hand. Like, he's always been able to elevate his game once you got to the postseason. You've noticed that in New England over the years. But I don't know if it's ever been more noticeable. And I think probably some of the signs were there at the end of the year. You could start to see Tom Brady start to build a little bit. And he just has a way to kind of find that other level. And they wore them out on crossing routes. They were able to find that open third of the field, be able to check up with hitches, and then they just ran over routes after over route after over route. And to me, it was just a clinic by Brady and company.
Yeah, and to your point, DJ, I mean, this literally was the most productive final 4-game stretch of a regular season of any in Tom Brady's illustrious career. I mean, like, it's kind of strange to think about that in your 43-year-old season. That at the tail end of that year, you are absolutely playing the best football maybe of your career.
That's like a country song. It's like I think it's like a Toby Keith song, right? I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Yeah,
that's it. He doesn't have to put together 20 games. Just do it here for a little bit.
Yeah, especially.
All right, what's the next game we've got?
The final game. Final game. Our final game takeaway here is taking us to the Rams and the Seahawks, where the Rams served up the Seahawks cold.
Wilson gets the snap. He looks, he throws left side. That's intercepted. It's going back down the sideline for a Rams touchdown. Darius Williams jumped the route and strolls in a defensive touchdown, and the Rams extend the lead.
What a play by Darius Williams. They tried the quick screen out to the left, and he saw it all the way.
First off, I'm halfway surprised that doesn't happen more often in the league, but we'll get that. That's a conversation for another day. So the gourmet meal that Russ had cooked up weeks 1 through 5 was clearly stuck in the fridge, and by the first weekend of the playoffs, they were just picking at it out of the fridge, and the Seahawks decided just to take it all out. Or the Rams decided to take it all out just to serve it up to you ice cold. It tasted terrible. 12 completions for Russell Wilson. I went too far with that analogy, but you get it.
A little bit.
It was bad. It was bad. It was gross. Nobody likes the ice cold leftovers that have been in there a couple of days too long.
We get it. We got you.
You know what I mean?
I'm on it.
You're still good? Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I painted that completely clear for you. So look, Goff had thumb surgery 12 days ago coming into that game, was pressed into duty because Wolford went out. I mean, look, that wasn't, that even, well, it was a storyline just because it's your starting quarter. The storyline was the Rams defense absolutely dominating the Seahawks, once proud passing attack, once proud protection of Russell Wilson. They didn't have a run game to turn to, which has kind of been a theme all season long. And I have never seen Russ miss like that. I've never seen him, pressured into more incompletions and to more bad throws and bad decisions and just overall out of sync offensive play from the Seahawks. In a game like this, I get why Pete Carroll said, I don't have space in my brain to contemplate and to understand this kind of result. I'm right. I mean, I'm right with him on that, because those first 5 weeks told us an outcome like this at the end of the year should never happen.
Yeah, but Red, like, here's the thing: that let Russ cook movement has always been fool's gold for the Seattle Seahawks. Whenever they have been able to win consistently, it has always been because the running game and the defense plays at a high level, and then Russ makes it right in the fourth quarter. And sometimes we get seduced into thinking that more Russ is better, but we've seen time and time again, when he throws more than 30 times, it falters for whatever reason with the Seahawks. And DJ and Red, we've all had this conversation. Sometimes your DNA is your DNA as a team, and there's a way that you win games. And whenever the Seahawks try and get outside of that, they always come back to the pack. And so this would be something where Pete Carroll, Brian Schottenheimer, they'll have to get together and figure out the best way to proceed. But I think this year we saw that letting Russ cook isn't the best method for the Seahawks to win and to win at the highest level.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that team, and, man, along the line of scrimmage, both sides, right, offensive line, defensive line, I don't think they're close to what they were in those Super Bowl years where they won one and went back to one. So you're not really where you were. And if you look at it, I mean, no first-round pick this year, no first-round pick next year. Where's that help coming from? Because offensive linemen, first of all, offensive linemen rarely get to the market. If they do get to the market, you are in a massive bidding war with all these other teams that have all this salary cap space. So that's going to be difficult to get that done. And same on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't know. They're in a pickle, man. And you've kind of set this thing up now where you're going to put all this on the quarterback's shoulders. And as great as Russell Wilson is, Bucky, you laid it out perfectly. There's still a formula that works for them, and I don't think that's it. So this is an organization, I know, man, it's weird saying it. You just won the division. You look at all the success that they've had. They're in a little bit of a bind here, Rhett, when you think about them going forward here the next few years.
Yeah, you got to count on some development. You got to count on your coaching staff to develop what you got in there right now, and hope that the LJ Colliers, the Jordan Brookses on the defensive side continue to emerge. The Damian Lewises on the on the offensive side up front, continue to get better, and you can develop those guys while you're waiting for that capital to kind of replenish itself. So it almost feels like there's going to be a lot on this coaching staff here moving forward.
Yeah, and then that leads to another question: is how much longer does Pete Carroll want to do this? Especially if you feel like that championship carrot might be drifting a little bit further away. So, hey, interesting times ahead for the Seattle Seahawks as we march towards the offseason.
Welcome back to Move the Sticks here, presented by Castrol Edge, the takeaway podcast, continuing now with our final 4 takeaways and some news items, essentially some kind of big picture items that we're looking at here. And we're starting with some big decisions up here looming for some veteran quarterbacks. Saw the 04 quarterback class take a hit here with Phillip Rivers making his exit, Ben Roethlisberger making his exit as well. And now you've got Brady and Breeze lined up in the divisional round of the playoffs. So, DJ, as you look at the 2 guys now who are out, starting with Phillip Rivers, I mean, what do you make of the decisions that are on tap here?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be fascinating, right? You laid it out there with some of these veteran quarterbacks, and you've got 2 of them still going here in Breeze and Brady. But when you look at that 04 group with Ben and with Rivers, big decisions for them to make. And I can't help but think of this, somewhat changing of the guard, right? You saw it in that game with Indianapolis playing against Buffalo. And I was thinking about that, about the pre-draft process. Remember with that draft class, it was Sam Darnold and Josh Allen, Kyle Allen. All those guys were working out together in San Clemente in California. And Phillip Rivers actually came up and spent some time with them to try and help them as they were trying to get on their journey. And actually, we're able to get some video of a conversation that Rivers had with them as he was trying to show them the way. And I thought, man, this is a great time. We got a hold of this to show this conversation because it did feel a little bit like the changing of the guard. So check this out.
I feel like these guys all have a pretty good spirit about them. Yeah, totally. Just his spirit towards ball, wanting to get better. Totally. They enjoy it. Okay, so you all have spirit. Okay? So you all have spirit. Here's growth. Here's great growth. Okay, and y'all all said y'all want great growth. So really, if it's spirit, I can't really write. Okay, and you're comfortable, you can have growth. But really, Jordan's job and whoever's helping you, right, is to make you uncomfortable. Spirit, uncomfortable, you can have great growth. I mean, think about it. I mean, you have growth, we can get better. I mean, you can get better. Have a good spirit, I'm ready to go to the ball, let's learn. Oh, this is nice, I'm comfortable, everything's great. Yeah. Right? And you can grow, but you can have great growth when you get uncomfortable. Right? So that's why Jordan's, and I think y'all are going to be, this is part of being a little bit uncomfortable. Like, gosh, I'm learning offense, I'm not going to run this and make this, but that's where you have great growth through those days where it's hard and you're uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't know if Phillip Rivers thought during that time that there'd be a time when one of the guys sitting there on the couch and Josh Allen would be one that ushered him out of the postseason, which we saw this last weekend. But yeah, I mean, we'll see it. The interesting thing to me, I thought Rivers actually played really well in that game. Threw for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Mentioned a little bit earlier about the running backs letting him down. Does he decide to come back maybe for one more year with a team that can protect him up front with that offensive line? I tend to believe that maybe that is where it goes, one more year for him. But, Buck, when you look at Ben, man, I don't know. I know there's been talk about him coming back. I believe the number's like a $41 million hit if he comes back. I think it's $22 million if he doesn't. And this is a Pittsburgh Steelers team that's in a little bit of a tough spot here when you look at their salary cap setup.
Yeah, look, I think it's a tough situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers when you look at Ben Roethlisberger. If you bring him back, I think you have to bring him back and completely revamp your offense. Right now, Ben Roethlisberger has too much on his plate. Some of that is by choice because he wants to throw the ball around the yard and do those things. But if the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't able to protect him, if they aren't able to run the football, and if they aren't able to consistently catch the ball down the field, I don't think Ben Roethlisberger can play at a high level. And so Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, all of the people in the front office, they have to figure out how can we best construct this offense with an aging quarterback who's immobile as our QB1.
Well, look, here, my takeaway is that we know what Rivers is going to do next if it's not football, right? He's going to be coaching down in Alabama. Yep. And the good news is that he's made himself uncomfortable enough on the whiteboard to experience some great growth as a coach. I mean, he really put himself in an uncomfortable spot there with that whiteboard was giving him all he could handle. So I was glad to see that. No, he's in good shape here either way. I kind of feel like, and I'll move to the 2 guys that are still in, it feels like to me, seeing how well Brady has played, that unless he goes out with a Super Bowl and just says, look, 7's enough, I think we're going to see him back, whereas it certainly feels like, and basically from all the rumblings we've been hearing, like for Breeze, probably the end here this year, almost no matter what. I'm sure there's something that could change that, but that's my feeling on the Brady Breeze side of it.
Red, I want to say this about Brady. I think the reason why it works for Brady and why he'll be able to continue on, two factors stand out to me. One, he is surrounded by a 5-star cast of playmakers around him that really make the game easy. And the move from New England to Tampa, I don't think we can underestimate the warm weather and the impact it has had on his ability to function and thrive at the end of the year. It's kind of like playing golf. The ball flies farther when you play in warm weather as opposed to playing in the cold.
Right.
I think he has realized the benefits of playing in really, 12 games a year, 11 games a year in a warm weather environment. I think that works well for an older player like him.
Yeah, not to mention practicing every day in the warm weather.
Right.
That's a big part of it. I agree with you. What do we got next here, Red?
So up next, we're talking about the turmoil with the Texans. By now, you've probably consumed the SI piece on Jack Easterby's influence in Houston. You've read the reports about the whole GM search with Nick Caserio eventually ending up the kind of the out-of-the-blue candidate that gets the job. And now the priorities for Caserio here, Bucky Brooks, as we look at Deshaun Watson's happiness in Houston and whether he feels like this is more of the same, as he has tweeted now since the Caserio hiring that some things never change. How do you view priority one for Caserio in whether that is, trying to get Deshaun Watson to come around or not and moving on?
No, I think it's all about keeping Deshaun Watson in the fold. And I think it's very clear. It's very easy to create this relationship and make it the relationship that you want. It's about trust and communication. The first thing that Caserio has to do is he has to communicate with the quarterback. They got to clear the air and talk about all the things that happened in the past and let bygones be bygones. And then it's about earning the trust. And even though Deshaun Watson may have been promised to be in part of the discussion or whatever, it didn't happen. And so now he has to show Deshaun, trust me, we're going to build this team around you. We know you give us the best chance to get to a Super Bowl. We're going to make sure that you're positioned in a spot where you're elevated as a player. Let me go to work, you buy in, and this will work out. But it starts with that initial conversation.
I was fascinated when there was the rumors floating around about the Dolphins, and you had the Tua discussions, and maybe it's Tua and picks, which ironically would be Houston getting back the third pick that they had given to Miami. I love that part of it. So you get Laramie Tunsil in that trade, you give up the 2 1s, then you end up getting one back. But now, man, to me, that's a pretty steep drop there when you look at what Watson has accomplished in this league with some of the uncertainty there with Tua. But, look, there's all these rumors floating around. I don't know how much you put into it, but when you see the Tua thing, you can make the connection between Nick Caserio and then you also look at potentially Brian Daboll because of their relationship, him coming in as a head coach. Brian Daboll having been the offensive coordinator at Alabama with Tua. We think about the play that set Tua's career off, the game-winning touchdown pass to Devontae Smith. There you go. And the ironic thing, Buck, how about this reunion? You make the trade, you sign Daboll as your head coach, you get the third pick, right? So you get Tua and the third pick plus whatever else. You use the third pick, you take Devonta Smith, so you've got Tua, Devonta Smith, and Daboll all in Houston, and then your head just explodes. We've gotten in a time machine.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely explodes.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy to think about there, because I think the Texans fans are tired of being Patriots South, so much so that Cal McNair had to acknowledge that he does not believe that they are Patriots South, the owner of the Texans. Now they'll just be Alabama West. So that would be.
You know what's interesting though is that there are teams, especially the teams that have a lot of turnover. Like you think about it with the Cleveland Browns. I ended up going towards the last half of Phil Savage's time with Cleveland because Cleveland had been a little bit obsessed with Baltimore. Then George Kokinis came in there as a GM in Cleveland. And eventually they brought in Mike Pettin as a head coach who had spent time in Baltimore as a defensive coordinator. Some organizations get a little obsessed with other ones. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is to follow those patterns. All right, let's move on to another organization looking for a new power structure, one that could be filled by one man whose former team is on display tonight. The national championship game as Ohio State battles Alabama here. Of course, talking about Urban Meyer, the potential DJ, that he ends up in Jacksonville as the new head coach, maybe more with some personnel responsibility with the Jags. How do you see, like, the strange part about this one for me is he's such an accomplished coach, right, DJ, but it still feels like a little bit, I don't want to say a reach, but a bold move. A guy with very little NFL experience.
Yeah, I think that's been said a bunch, right? And I've heard this theory, and I'll get to Bucky on this as well, but we've heard this theory, the best thing Urban Meyer does is recruit. And so he's got better players than everybody else he plays against. That's why he wins. You're not going to have those same built-in advantages with the competitive balance at the professional level. My counter to that would be, okay, not only has he been able to identify and recruit kids, he's also developed them. We've seen him take guys like Mike Thomas and develop them throughout their career. He's brought in, of course, he's brought in the 5-star kids, but he's been able to even get those guys better. How many times have we seen 5-stars go to these other places and fizzle out? Yeah. So he's been able to develop guys once they've got there. He's got a winning culture and program that he's set up in terms of how they go about their business of being physical, being competitive. I think that's going to play well. I think Jimmy Johnson is kind of a good marker for him of what you're hoping he can be. And the other thing is, if he goes to Jacksonville, they got a zillion picks. Yeah. So he's going to get a chance in one fell swoop to bring in all these young players. Do I think that, Urban Meyer with a ton of veterans on a veteran roster that, I could see maybe that could get sideways? That's not the case. This is very similar to the Cowboys, Buck, when Jimmy Johnson got there. They're going to have a ton of young players with a ton of young picks.
DJ, it's something that you pointed out because everyone kind of glosses over, he is a recruiter. He's always used to having the most talent, and so that's why he wins. But go back and look at what he did at Bowling Green. Better yet, go back and look at what he did at Utah and how he developed Alex Smith and how Alex Smith went from being a freshman that was playing okay to being a guy that was the #1 overall pick in the draft because of the influence and the development that Urban Meyer had at Utah. That said, there will be a bit of a transition and an adjustment. But when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, this is a team that needs a program builder from top to bottom to bring it all the way up to develop the young players. And because the roster is so young and because you have so many draft picks, this is basically just an extension of college in terms of how he rebuilds this. Yeah, he'll bring on some veterans, but to develop it the right way and to put the onus on the coaches to take the players where they are and to get them to another level, I absolutely believe he could be successful. The only thing is, can he take some initial losing, and how long is he for this kind of job?
But because would he be bold enough to take Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence? I mean, that's the real question.
I don't think the Jets
would be watching that national championship game with their Justin Fields pom-poms on. Either way, man. They'd be like, either way, this is great for business if he plays well.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Final takeaway here following Super Wildcard Weekend.
And with the 10th takeaway, the Eagles fired Doug Pederson. This is a move that is a little surprising based on the amount of success that Doug Pederson had. Took the Eagles to their only Super Bowl victory. He has a winning record, well over 500 when it comes to it. Went to the playoffs 3 times. And when I look at this move, it comes down to Carson Wentz or Doug Pederson. Carson Wentz, your franchise quarterback. You have a lot of money invested in Carson Wentz. He is really too expensive to really cut, and so you have to keep him. And so it's easy to move on from the head coach. And when you think about this relationship, it was fractured, evidently beyond repair. And when Doug Pederson reportedly met with ownership, Jeffrey Lurie didn't necessarily like what he heard. And so maybe he couldn't articulate the vision. Maybe he couldn't necessarily plot a plan for getting the Eagles out of this rut. And then for Doug Pederson, it may have been a situation where he's like, too many people are advising me on how to run this team. First, when it comes to ownership and telling them what they wanted to see potentially with the quarterback. Then when it comes to Doug Pederson running this offense, he brought in a bunch of offensive advisors, Marty Mornwig, Press Taylor, Rich Gangrello, to try and help this offense get going. And we saw the struggles. And so some of that frustration, I'm sure from Doug Pederson's standpoint, is his failures may not have been completely on his own accord, meaning he didn't get a chance to do it his way. So now you have a clean break from the Eagles. Doug Pederson can go and pursue other jobs. Maybe he lands in New York with Joe Douglas, who they have a relationship with from the Eagles. And the Eagles can go and find someone who can repair Carson Wentz. And so this would be a fascinating development to watch. But if you're the Eagles, it is all about putting all your eggs in the Carson Wentz basket and hoping that your franchise quarterback can lead you back to the postseason going forward.
All right, it's time for Be Prepared, presented by Castrol Edge, Buck, and we're looking at a playoff game that I can't wait for. It's going to be the third meeting this year between these two teams that know each other very well in the NFC South. The Saints are going to be welcoming in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we've got two quarterbacks with a combined 9,465 career years in the National Football League. How about Brees? What are you looking for from Drew Brees in this game if the Saints are going to get the Bucs for the third time this year?
Yeah, I think it's all about Drew Brees getting off to a fast start. I think we have seen when he's been able to get in rhythm and utilize all the weapons available to him, the Saints offense still has some firepower and still has a level of explosiveness. The one thing that I do want to see him continue to try and challenge himself to do, see if he can push it down the field. The Tampa Bay secondary has been vulnerable for the big play at times. Maybe they can get a shot down the field. And if they can stretch it a little bit, just make them respect the vertical game, we know they're tough to tackle in space. You can do the dink and dunk thing, and I think it can be very, very successful and effective for the Saints.
And when I flip it over and I look at Tom Brady trying to have some success here against the team they have not beat this year, I look at the play action, and we've seen more of that. We saw a lot of it there against Washington. You saw Tom Brady get into a rhythm. Play action, back foot, ball is gone. You do not want Tom Brady holding the football against the Saints defensive front who got after him the last time that they played. So to me, being efficient off play action, it'll help if we see Fournette run the ball as well as he did last week with some physicality to provide some balance there for the Bucs. I think with Antonio Brown getting more comfortable in this offense and really having the weapons that they do, it's going to be a fun one. I do not see this one getting away like the last one did with the New Orleans Saints having a big advantage in that last contest. So we'll see what happens with those two Hall of Fame quarterbacks when they square off. That game, by the way, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. That will be the Bucs taking on the Saints. You can find that on Fox and on Fox Deportes. That is Be Prepared, presented by Castrol Edge. All right, Buck, this has been a jam-packed episode, man. It's really my favorite weekend of the year because we had those 6 playoff games, which were outstanding. Fun time breaking that down today. But then we also can look forward. If you check out tomorrow's Move the Sticks podcast, we'll get a chance to recap the national championship game, which hopefully is a great one between Ohio State and Alabama.
It absolutely should be a great one. All eyes are on this fantastic matchup. 2 big blue blood programs. You have a ton of NFL prospects in this game, and so it's fascinating to watch. And on top of it, man, you can't get enough. It's been a smorgasbord of football all weekend. Then you get a Monday game. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, it's my favorite football weekend of the year. So we'll have a chance to get after and recap that big matchup between the Buckeyes and the Crimson Tide. So be on the lookout for that on the Move the Sticks podcast. You can find that Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Just pump in Move the Sticks and you can find us there. All the video content, NFL.com/MTS video, as well as the YouTube channel. You can go to youtube.com/NFL podcast. You can find all the good stuff there as well. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. We will catch you next time right here on Move the Sticks, presented by Castrol Edge.